Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Elan's Matchup Maximizer, a podcast presented by Keeping Karlsson, where I, Elan Dubrovsky, take a look at next week's NHL schedule and try to recommend players that you should be adding to get you some GPs for your head-to-head matchups, and hopefully players that will also get you some points in those games that they get into your roster. The name of the game here is to take a look at the schedule for next week, see which days are busy, which days are light, and we're going to be wanting to target players that are playing on light days, assuming that on the busy days, your roster's already full. So adding a player that is playing on a busy day, that guy's just going to be sitting on your bench, not helping you at all. Next week, it's a pretty straightforward week. There's no games on Sunday because I guess holidays. So we've got a really busy Thursday, a really busy Saturday, a pretty busy Tuesday. So 22 teams playing Tuesday, 24 Thursday, 28 Saturday, and then you've got light days on your Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we're going to want to get those Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Those are guys that if you add, you're getting 3 games for sure. And there are 2 teams that play on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Those are the Detroit Red Wings and the Winnipeg Jets. So can we find any gems in free agency? So let's start with Detroit. I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is that there are like a lot of options, like a lot of players that are available to you that have been like either getting points lately or are in interesting spots in the lineup. Like there's going to be some names. The bad news is there's no one obvious, and it's really like it's probably just a dice roll with all of these different Detroit players. They just lost 1-0 to Philly today, so you got to wonder if maybe lines are going to get shaken up by the time they play their next game next week, which is on Monday versus the Anaheim Ducks. But looking at what's going on here today in this loss to Philly, Patrick Kane was being centered by Comfer and Michael Rasmussen. I guess that was the top line. Would you call the Kane line the top line? Or you could say DeBrincat, Joe Veleno, and Lucas Raymond. That was a line. Okay, so, and of course, we've got Dylan Larkin injured. He may be back even at some point next week. Very difficult to predict. So yeah, obviously, if we're taking a look at who you're not going to be able to add, I'm looking at a couple percent rostered. Raymond, Gostisbehere, Kane, DeBrincat, Larkin, Seider. Those are all the people who are 100% rostered. As far as Yahoo percent rostered, for those of you in shallower leagues, like a Lucas Raymond, only 64% rostered. Probably you're not going to get him. Honestly, okay, so I'm just going to assume all those guys I mentioned, you can't get. Who's next? Honestly, I could be talking more about these forwards. Let me just jump right to defense. Jake Wallman is really solid, okay? Especially if you're in a league where you don't have that many defense or defense is hard to come by. Maybe it's getting to be a bit too late. Like Wallman is up to 44% rostered in Yahoo, and he's rostered in almost all cupful divisions. The Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League. That we have like 40 plus divisions of like really smart players, and Wallman is rostered in basically all of them, save for like 1 or 2. But yeah, so Wallman is solid if you can get him, just like especially with those peripherals. Like if your league counts blocks, he's great. He takes a lot of shots. He had 5 shots today in this game where Detroit got shut out. So maybe he's not even an option, but just throwing him out there. The next guy, I guess I would target, like I'll just throw some names out. Like Michael Rasmussen has been on a great hot streak before being shut out. He scored in 2 straight games, have been taking some shots. Like I said, he's playing on a line with Patrick Kane. No power play time though for Michael Rasmussen. Like the thing is, none of these guys are players that I'm like so sure are going to do something, but I'm throwing him out there because he was on a hot streak playing with Patrick Kane, which, you know, at one time would have been really good. Lately, I mean, Patrick Kane, honestly, if Detroit didn't have a great schedule, I think you'd be seeing him starting to get dropped in a lot of leagues. He's like pointless in his last 2. He only has 2 points now in 6 games overall. So he's probably a guy that Brian and I will talk about, but at the same time with Detroit's schedule, you might as well hold him at least for the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then reassess. Okay, so who did I say here? I said Rasmussen. So okay, you could also look at like a JT Compher who missed some games due to injury, but yeah, he's centering that line. Maybe Joe Veleno is someone you look at. He's been on this line with DeBrincat and Lucas Raymond, and also on the top power play with Kane, DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond, and Shane Gostisbehere. Of course, the downside with Veleno is he's pointless now in his last 2 games. He did have a 2-assist game a couple games back. He's been taking 2 or 3 shots for a while. So Veleno, honestly, like if I'm grabbing someone on Detroit, maybe just give me a guy that I guess I'll call the DeBrincat Raymond line, the top line. So if he's on the top line and the top power play and that holds, I guess we have to call Veleno your top streamer. That's likely available to you. And has that good schedule. So far, I guess we'll say Veleno. Should I throw more names out at you? Robbie Fabry is someone that a few people were excited about. He had a really good run going. He's pointless in his last couple. He could definitely get going again. He was playing on a line with Kopp and Daniel Sprong. Sprong is someone who's gotten some points here and there. So like I said, there's a lot of names. So you're not going to have a shortage of Red Wings to go after that have gotten some points recently. The question is just like, how do you pick? And honestly, I don't know. Like my head is saying Veleno is the top pick because he's on the top power play, but my heart is saying like probably not. He's Joe Veleno, but I don't know. So all these people are just their names, and then you go shrug because they're not too exciting. So there's Detroit. Was that helpful? I don't know. Oh, also Alex Lyon got hurt. So if Ville Husso is available in your league, maybe you just jump on him. Maybe he gets you a couple games. He did really well in relief today. All right, so the other team with a really good schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, next week, only 3 games. Those are the only 3 games you need because, Detroit sure has that Saturday, but you're probably not fitting in your Detroit person on the busy Saturday. Taking a look at Winnipeg, look, if you're in a shallower league, there's one clear answer here that may be available to you. This guy is rostered in all Cupful divisions, but only rostered in 20% of Yahoo leagues overall. I'm talking about top line, top power play, Gabe Vilardi. Go get Gabe Vilardi. He's clearly the streamer of the week if he's available to you. That top line on Winnipeg is just destroying right now. Scheifele, Ehlers, and Vilardi. If you can get Vilardi, he just scored 2 goals today in the 6-2 win over Colorado. I'm recording this on Saturday night. 4 shots. Vilardi had 3 shots in each of his previous 3 games. He had 4 points in the last game versus LA. Obviously you want Scheifele and obviously you want Ehlers at this point. And Ehlers, by the way, only 49% roster. So if you're in a super shallow league, definitely jump on Ehlers. Ehlers is looking back how he was when he's had his best seasons. He's benefiting the most maybe from this Kyle Connor injury, and honestly he was looking pretty good before Connor's injury when he got on that top line in the first place, and now he's also on the top power play. So you're definitely wanting Ehlers, it's no question, and you're also definitely wanting Gabe Vilardi. But here's where things get interesting because those players are all 100% rostered in the Cupful. And then there are other forwards on this team that might all be available to you because with those 3 scorching like they have been, everyone else has kind of fallen by the wayside. If we take a look at the lines in this game against Colorado, I guess you would say the second line was this Iafallo, Perfetti, and Nemesnikov line, and then Cole Perfetti was on the top power play with the 3 guys from the top line and Josh Morrissey, of course. So you would think Cole Perfetti is the most interesting as a second line, but top power play. Unfortunately, Perfetti, pretty cold lately. He got no points somehow. Winnipeg scored 6. Nemesnikov had a goal and an assist. Iafallo had himself a goal and an assist. You would think Perfetti would have gotten in on something. I see he was +1. He was on the ice for at least 1 goal, maybe a couple. Then maybe had a negative. So Perfetti is someone who is in a really good spot, pretty good spot. The even strength line isn't the most exciting, but he's on a good power play and he's cold, which means he's probably available. So I don't know. Call me crazy. Even though he's not hot at all, I'm going to say your best streamer over any of those Detroit guys is Cole Perfetti at this point. And he's probably available because he's probably been dropped in a lot of leagues from frustrated managers since he's pointless now in, after today, we're looking at 6 pointless games for Cole Perfetti. So what a perfect time for him to get going again on a week when Winnipeg has these 3 off-day games against Montreal, Detroit, and Boston, by the way. So Boston's obviously a tough team to score against, but maybe they could do something against Montreal and Detroit. I'll make my top pick Perfetti. But Iafallo was also super cold, but he just had his big 1 goal, 1 assist game today. Maybe that's the start of something. I'm not especially excited about him. Maybe he's your next best pick here. There's not really anyone else on Winnipeg that's doing much of anything, to be honest, aside from that top line. So you kind of just are going to want to go, again, you can look at defense. Neil Pionk got an assist today for his first time in a while. He's been super cold. So, unless you get the peripherals from him. He had a 5-block game against LA and 3 hits and 2 shots. But hopefully, I guess there's Nino Niederreiter, who was really good for a while, scored today. So, okay. So let me put Nino after Perfetti, obviously after all the top liners. But after Perfetti and ahead of whoever, Iafallo or Nemesnikov, even though Niederreiter's in the bottom 6. I guess he would be my most interesting Jet left that's not on the top power play. So, okay, hopefully you could get someone from one of these Detroit or Winnipeg. I guess your other option is to go look at a team that only has 2 off-day games, but maybe there's a more exciting player. So let's find out in just a sec. We'll come back and talk about the 2 teams with the 2 off-day games. So talk to you soon. Welcome back to Elan's Matchup Maximizer. I'm here looking at the schedules for next week, December 18th to 23rd. And so let's take a look at teams who have 2 off-day games. If you're not going to get a Red Wing or a Winnipeg Jet, maybe you take a look at the Seattle Kraken, who go Monday, Wednesday, and then Saturday. So you could always dump your Kraken ad after Wednesday and, figure something out. Spot start a goalie on Thursday or Friday. But who do you take on Seattle? It's kind of like a Detroit situation. There's a lot of different guys that are likely available to you. There's only 3 Kraken players that are 100% rostered in the cupful. Those are Vince Dunn, Jared McCann, and Eeli Tolvanen. Definitely, if you can get one of them, that would be your clear pick. Tolvanen up to 55% rostered on Yahoo. He's someone who we recommended early on in the podcast, and he's continued to do really well. So he's definitely someone that I would take a look at if he's somehow available to you in free agency. I think the next most obvious choice here is going to be Oliver Bjorkstrand, if you can get him. By the way, I should mention that Seattle is currently playing in a game as we speak against the Kings, so I don't have today's data for you. It's 1-1, and Adam Larsson has scored the goal for Seattle. But Bjorkstrand has been playing on the line with Tolvanen and centered by Yanni Gourde. And Bjorkstrand had a goal and 2 assists versus Chicago. Was a little bit cold before that in terms of points, but still a really solid bet for a lot of shots. He's had a lot of 4, 3, 3, even 6-5 shot games, which I always like to see. There was even a 9-shot game back on November 30th against Toronto where he only managed an assist. So you'd think if Bjorkstrand had better luck, his numbers would be even better. But I think he's going to be my clear top choice. You know what? I'm going to put Bjorkstrand right up there. Obviously, I'm assuming Velarde doesn't count. I can't just call him my streamer of the week. That would be too easy because I think for a lot of leagues, he's not available. So if it's like between Perfetti and Bjorkstrand, I would go Bjorkstrand, even though you're losing that extra game, assuming you can make good use of that, jump on a Winnipeg or Detroit person on Thursday, unless you only have like 1 or 2 ads a week. I would just grab Bjorkstrand, honestly, and then reassess after Wednesday. He's interesting. If you're not going to get him, man, I mean, there's Matty Beniers, who you'd think should be, but he's doing nothing lately. But I mean, if Beniers is out there now, he's probably been dropped. He's been dropped in my couple division. I mean, why not? Take a chance, kind of like a Cole Perfetti situation. He's still in a good spot. He's playing with McCann and Tomas Tatar today after Tatar has been acquired from Colorado. Yeah, I think Beniers is a really good player. I think at some point he's going to become more reliable for production. So he would be my next pick, even though he's been doing absolutely nothing lately. Jeff, if you could get Bjorkstrand, I think that's the better choice, especially because of all of those shots on goal. So that is Seattle. And of course, you can grab Joey Decourt if you need some goaltending because Grubauer is still out and Decourt has been doing pretty well. Okay, and then the other team with 2 off-day games is Les Habitants de Montréal. The Canadians play Monday and then Thursday and Friday. So, you got to wait all the way till the Friday to get that second game, but maybe it could be worth it. It's at Winnipeg. If they're playing against Hellebuck, that might not be a lot of goals. He's been really great lately, but Chicago on Friday, maybe he'll be able to score a little bit against them. The question is, of course, who do you want to add from the Canadians? One guy I'll throw out there right off the bat, he's been super cold lately, but if you have an open D spot on Thursday, maybe consider Caden Gooley. He finally broke out of his slump. Today he had an assist. I love that he gets really consistent blocks. So I'm talking in a league like the Cupful, where you get some points for your blocks and your shots. I wonder if Caden Gooley is someone who can build on this good game today where he had an assist and 2 shots and 3 hits and 2 blocks versus the Islanders. So he's kind of interesting if you can fit all 3 games. But assuming we want to go for someone with more offensive potential, I'm taking just a look at who's even on a hot streak in Montreal, and there is nobody. Even Cole Caulfield is cold. We'll talk about him on the show. He finally scored a goal today. He's been taking a lot of shots, so it would have been fun if he didn't score a goal today. So tomorrow on the show we could really say he's going to score soon, I promise. Now, it's a little bit more clear that he's going to break out of the slump as we knew he would. But yeah, so Caulfield and Suzuki aren't available to you. Matheson likely not available to you. Everyone else probably is. The guy playing with Caulfield and Suzuki in this latest game against the Islanders, which they lost, was Slavkovsky. He's just like a total drag. Oh, he did get an assist today, actually, but before that, he was pointless in like 7 games. I'm not too interested in Slavkovsky. You could take a look at the top power play. Slavkovsky's there also, and Sean Monahan, along with Mike Matheson and Suzuki and Caulfield. I think I'd prefer Sean Monahan over Slavkovsky if you're picking a hab. Monahan's actually on a pretty nice streak. He had 2 assists today, a goal against Pittsburgh in the last game. He had an assist a couple games before that. So I think my top pick from Montreal would be Monahan of the players who are likely available. Again, like when I said Caden Gooley, I'm just saying like if you need defense on Thursday anyways, you might squeeze that extra game. But if you just want to get the most total points, especially if you have a room on Thursday somehow, then yeah, give me Monahan as your top Montreal Canadiens streamer. So that's it for teams with 2 off-day games, though I should say that Tuesday, a little light. You might be able to fit someone in on Tuesday. So obviously you have to go set your roster and see if you can. Then, things open up a little bit. So I'll finish off what I always love to do. Who are my early week streamers? And then you reassess after you get, if you could get a couple games after Tuesday or even after Wednesday, that could still work out pretty well for you. Going down the list here, you've got a Monday, Tuesday from the Minnesota Wild. So that's always really sweet. Obviously, if you have that room on Tuesday. The Wild just beat the Vancouver Canucks today, 2-1 in a shootout. The lines they were rolling, Kaprizov, Boldy, and Joel Eriksson Ek. So very different than what we're used to, right? Zuccarello and Kaprizov have been split. Boldy, Kaprizov, and Joel Eriksson Ek probably rostered in the large majority of leagues, so that line is not available to you. And then Zuccarello's been playing with Marcus Johansson and Marco Rossi. And then the top power play in this last game was Eriksson Ek, Boldy, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, and Brock Faber as the defenseman. Remember, Spurgeon has been injured. He might be coming back soon, and he could bump Faber. Faber has been okay. He's kind of like a Caden Gooley, really good for the peripherals, good for the blocks. He had a couple multi-point games over the last couple of weeks, but he's also been pretty quiet aside from that offensively. So, not bad, not amazing. Obviously, if you have an open D spot on Tuesday and like an open D spot on Thursday, and you can get 3 games in 4 days, that makes Brock Faber pretty interesting. And I guess we'll talk about him, on tomorrow's show, just to touch base on what he's been doing, especially with Spurgeon injured. But yeah, I guess the other name that has been around for a while, like Ryan Hardman was Kaprizov's center for a while. He's been pretty cold though, and now. We're looking at Hartman playing on a line with Connor Dewar and Brandon Duhaime. So it's been a real demotion for Ryan Hartman. So I guess we're looking at the guys playing with Zuccarello, Rossi, and Marcus Johansson. If you want to just see what they've been doing, like Marco Rossi is kind of interesting. Like he had 2 goals in a row. It was, not on too many shots. Like he had 2 goals on 6 shots for a couple games. He had no points, 2 shots today in this 2-1 win. So Rossi, I guess, yeah, he's pointed pretty regularly, like at least 3 every 5 games, something like that. So I think he would probably be my top pick here on Minnesota of someone who's likely available to you. Rossi only rostered in 9% of Yahoo leagues. So if he's out there and you have the room on Monday and Tuesday, then definitely he's someone that's worth taking a look at. Then we could go to the LA Kings. They play Tuesday, Wednesday, so maybe you could even grab someone else for a Monday and then swap over to an LA player. That's always a fun strategy, though you are burning a move. Maybe it could be like a goalie start on the Monday, maybe a higher upside kind of stream, and then you switch over to your Tuesday, Wednesday if you have the space. Who are you going to get on LA? Well, if Trevor Moore's still out there, I like him. He keeps on producing. He had a goal today, 5 shots so far. We're not even halfway through this game. He had 8 shots in the game before that. Moore did have a 3-game pointless streak. Maybe the manager thought, okay, it's over for Trevor Moore, so that would be your opportunity. He's probably not available to you. Probably Byfield is not available to you. If we're looking at 20% rostered and lower, I feel like Phil Deneau is always pretty solid. He's kind of like a Marco Rossi to me. I have them very similar. So maybe you could grab Rossi for Monday and then flip over to Deneau and get games on all 3 of those days if your league is kind of deep. So yeah, I'd go Deneau. He has an assist so far today in this 1-1 game versus Seattle. So yeah, Deneau is solid. And the nice thing about Phil Deneau is he has exposure to Kevin Fiala, right? So that it's better than situations he's been in the past, and also with Trevor Moore. I like that line, Deneau, Fiala, and Moore. You're not getting top power play, but all those top power play guys are likely rostered in your league. So yeah, Deneau would be my top pick over on the Kings. And then I guess one more team that plays 2 times over the first 3 days are the Islanders. Also a Tuesday, Wednesday, just like LA. The Islanders have been scoring some goals, right? There's a lot of players that are producing there. The question is, are any of them available for you to add? You're not going to get Dobson. You're not going to get Horvat, Barzal, or Brock Nelson. So I think we're coming down to where we always come down to. You could get top line Anders Lee, who is now pointless in 4 games after I really was hyping him up. He did take 5 shots today in the 5-3 loss to Montreal. So, and 4 shots the game before that. So I like Anders Lee. And then I like Kyle Palmieri on that top power play. He had a stretch of 4 points in 4 games before now going pointless in 2. I'm at a point now. It's kind of flip a coin. Give me the guy on the top power play, I guess. Or no, but I also want to say give me the guy playing with Barzal and Horvat. So it's an even strength. So it's tricky. So Lee or Palmieri, definitely, if you come to Tuesday morning, one of those guys are available. I think you stream one of them and you'll be pretty happy. Also a super deep cut, especially if you need D. Let's say if you only have room for a defenseman on Tuesday and you want to get a Tuesday, Wednesday, Mike Riley has been getting a lot of shots on D, has a smattering of assists here and there. But yeah, 4 shots today versus Montreal. So Mike Riley, someone to keep in mind, he's getting second power play deployment. He gets some blocks. He didn't get any blocks today, but he had 3 blocks in yesterday's game versus Boston. So someone to consider. And of course, again, like LA and the Islanders and Minnesota, these are all goalies that are teams that are playing 2 days in a row. So you're going to have a backup goalie getting in there. So maybe an opportunity for a goalie stream if you want to do that. I don't really talk too much about goalies on this podcast. I'm just looking at the forwards and defensemen mostly. So that's going to do it for another episode of Matchup Maximizer. Hopefully you are able to stream well next week. It's going to be a week probably where you're going to be depending on your studs because like you can see here, there's not too many options to maximize games played. If you're stuck with some of the many Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday only players, definitely check your rosters for each day, see who you're benching on those days. And if you have a player who you're literally not getting any games in, that's a clear drop, right? So like, for example, I don't know, let me just pick a team here. The San Jose Sharks play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So let's say you added like Zetterlund, you're like happy with his production, but then when you actually go and set your rosters, like I'm not actually going to play Zetterlund in any of these games. Maybe then it would be like a point to be like, I'm not going to hold this guy when I could get like Cole Perfetti, you know what I mean? So who's going to play 3 games for me, even if you're like excited about what Zetterlund has been doing. So that's just an example. But yeah, you definitely want to take a look at any of these Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday players on your team that you don't expect to get in. And if you have someone that you're only going to get in once, if it's Tuesday, you might as well hold and get the Tuesday game, and then maybe you're dropping on Wednesday morning for someone who plays like a Wednesday, Friday or something like that. So that's all the strategy I could give you. I guess by the time I'm back doing this again, I will actually still have the opportunity to wish you a happy holiday. So I'll talk to you next weekend. Hope everyone's having a good time, enjoying your fantasy leagues, and hope you enjoyed the short shifts that Brian and I dropped on Thursday. It was a lot of fun to be able to jump on a short shift with Brian, the first time we've ever done that. Before that, Derek came on in a guest spot and crushed it on Tuesday, along with Shams, who hosted short shifts for the first time. So if you haven't listened to those shows yet, I would definitely check them out. I think that content is still very useful. Brian and I had a fun debate on Thursday of Dylan Strome versus Alex Ovechkin. A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but also I thought it was an interesting conversation. And then we're going to have a mega show coming out tomorrow, and we're going to have more short shifts next week. So just make sure you're subscribed to Keeping Karlsson to get all this good stuff. But I will stop rambling here. Talk to you tomorrow for the mega show. Good luck with your streaming and good night.